Hey everyone. Since this is my first video, I'll start by saying that what I'm going to do on this channel is try to do something a little more unique in the music critic vein. Not that it's the most unique thing out there, but there's a lot of channels, especially in the last decade, that have been doing music reviews for albums, and I love watching them a lot personally. The Needle Drop, I think, being kind of the biggest one in the last decade. I love watching his channel. And I really have always admired how he dissects and breaks down records. It's very fun to listen to. But rather than just kind of copy those channels, I wanted to stick to a game that my friend and I created, which is to take a favorite record of ours and break it down and rank each individual song from the record from our favorite to our least favorite. And I normally go, when I'm listing this off, I usually start from my least favorite on the record and work my way to the highest ranked so that it kind of builds the suspense up. And yeah, I don't know, I've just always wanted to be a music critic. It's something that I've kind of dabbled in the past and never did it professionally, but my friends have had a couple of literary magazines, and at one time I did write a few reviews for it. It was really fun. But for the sake of this channel, because I'm not really the best at keeping up with a lot of new material, I might include some newer stuff later, I'm not sure, but I'd like to mostly review what I consider to be classic records at this point. And those are going to be from anything that predates 2010, basically. I'll probably cap off around 2005, just because 2010 is really getting too close to modern music. But I believe that anything from kind of like the early to mid 2000s, predating, and I mean anything going back from that, I think is a good pick for me. I'm more familiar with anything from all of those eras, and if you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments, because I am young and I haven't heard, a lot of music, especially that came before 1995, I would say. So yeah, feel free to leave some suggestions. I could always, especially when it comes to classic records, could always use some more music in my arsenal. But without further ado, let's get on with the review. I'm going to do, or the list rather, I'm going to be ranking the songs from Nirvana's Nevermind today, which, of course, is a very famous album. It's pretty much the most famous album of the 1990s. It's still very famous even today, some 30 years later, which is incredible. That just goes to show how different that record was when it came out and what that statement really meant to people. The thing about it, though, is that it was there was nothing pretentious about it. Kurt Cobain was never the kind of writer that really wrote anything with a whole lot of intention other than to just express what he was feeling. And what's great about it is that most of his lyrics are very ambiguous and kind of vague. So for me, I don't read into Nirvana's lyrics a whole lot. It's more about the kind of mood and atmosphere the song kind of sonically sets, and it's more about the way that Kurt delivers the lyrics, more than it is about what they say themselves. So yeah, the record was released in 1991, produced by Butch Vig, great music producer, one of my favorites. He's produced the Smashing Pumpkins, he's produced Sonic Youth. He went on to be in the band Garbage and was also one of their producers, as well as one of the instrument players. He was primarily the drummer. And he's a great musician, great producer, and I love the band Garbage as well, so probably be reviewing records. Well, definitely we'll be reviewing records by all three of those bands as well in the future. But anyway, Nevermind is widely regarded as kind of like a grunge staple, that it defines the grunge era, the grunge sound. For me personally, when I listen to it, I don't really hear grunge. For me, that was always Pearl Jam and Stone Temple Pilots, bands in that vein, which are great in their own right. But for me, Nirvana always sounded more like a punk or post-punk thing, noise rock, sometimes a little more hardcore punk, especially with Kurt's vocal delivery. So, yeah, no, I think that Nevermind as an album, although it definitely basks in a little bit of a grunge feel, I think it is more layered and has more influences than people kind of give it credit for. So let's get on to the list. Starting with last place, I have Polly, and like I said, I don't know if I said this already, but I don't dislike any songs on this record. I don't think any of them are weak. There's just a matter of when I start to get down and nitpick what I think I like least, I would probably put Polly last because it is the most stripped down song on the record, and that's not always going to land a song lower for me, but in the case of this album, it does, just because I think it is the least ambitious. It's kind of the least interesting to listen to out of all of them, but I will not say the same about the lyrics. They're very dark. This is one of the only Nirvana songs I can think of that I think had really an intended lyrical theme, and that is of basically being held captive by someone and abused and enduring trauma from that, but it's kind of told from the abuser's perspective. It's just very dark and weird and kind of poetic in a way. It's just the way that he strings the words together is very pleasant to listen to. Like I said, Kurt just had a way with lyrics. So I think this is lyrically one of the stronger songs, but musically it lost enough points for me to put it last. Still think it's a great song, though. Okay, coming in at number 12, I have Stay Away, which this is a song that, to me, has a really great driving feel to it. Kind of reminds me of being in a small club when a band like Nirvana is first coming out, and maybe it was something that they would open with that's really high energy. I do really like how fast and pummeling it is. I do like the repetition of the word "stay away" in it. It's just very thrilling and tense. However, it is not one of my favorite songs. I just think that compared to the rest of the album, it's not one of the stronger songs experimentally or sonically. It's not as ambitious. Just a little less interesting to listen to, but it's still a good song. And now, moving on to number 11, I have Endless Nameless, which gets a bad reputation for being just kind of like this melting pot of ugly noises for people, but I like music like that if it's done correctly. I really like a lot of noise rock and post-punk and shoegazing. And this song is unique to me because it's not any one of those things. It's kind of like a melting pot of all those sounds. There's a lot of varying guitar tones. You don't really know what you're going to hear next when you're listening to it, because it is a pretty long song as well. And I think it just shows that Nirvana was not just the formula that shows up on this album a lot, where it's like a pop melody set to a hard driving rock kind of punk song. Smells Like Teen Spirit being like the prime example of that, obviously. It's such a departure from all of that, and for that reason it earns enough points to place higher than the ones that came before. So I personally like it. I think it's interesting, noisy, adventurous, weird, dark. Just has a lot of good qualities. Okay, moving on to number 10, I have Territorial Pissings. And this is another one for me that sounds like a great being in a small club, thrashing around kind of song. Dark punk feel to it, but even kind of an air of almost comedy, or kind of unsettling too, with the intro being just everybody get together, smile on your brother, being screamed at the beginning. It kind of sounds like a bar fight's about to ensue to me in a way. I don't know what everyone else gets from it, but that's kind of what I feel when I hear that. And it's just a fun song. It kind of makes me want to go break some glass and, I don't know, just have a good time at a bar and dance around to some hard music. So it's a fun song. I like it. I think there's some really good bass playing in it too as well, and drumming. Moving on to number 9, I have Lounge Act, which actually is the 9th song on the album. And I placed this one a little bit higher because to me it has a weird, dark, sort of atonal edge, but at the same time still follows the hook feel and the sort of pop melody feel. It's definitely not as pleasant of a melody, I guess, as a lot of other songs on the record, but something about it is just instantly memorable in that way. And there's some really great bass playing by Chris on the song. I really like the drums too. I could say that about all of the songs on the record, but I think this is one where the bass really stands out. And yeah, it's one of the more unique songs. And although I did say I would rank things based more on ambition, I do think this is one of the more ambitious, kind of weird songs, but placing it a little lower just because it's an album full of great songs. I mean, what are you going to do? Number 8, I have Breed, which is one of the best punk riffs on the whole song for me. It has a great post-punk noise rock riff, very dark and brooding, great hard-hitting drums, great bass. Not much more I can say about it. It is kind of a simple song, but it's just so... It drives so nicely and it drives so hard that you can't help but kind of thrash around to it. I think it's definitely, arguably to me, is the best of the true punk songs by Nirvana. Yeah, it's a great song. Nothing else I can really say there. Now, coming in at 7th, which is about the halfway point, and I think a lot of people are going to think this is a low placement, but it's Come As You Are. And I think out of all of the radio hits, this one just lands a little lower for me. I do think it has a great melody and a great structure. I love the opening riff on the guitar. It's, just instantly memorable. Everything about it is memorable, really, for being honest. It's just a great, catchy song, but it has a dark edge. It also has this kind of interesting... what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a romantic appeal. I know that probably sounds strange to say, but it has kind of a sensual vibe about it that's really nice. Like Kurt is inviting this person to come exactly how they are, but it's also, it sounds twisted and dark too, like maybe the relationship's a little toxic in a way. I don't know. It's just very, exudes this very sensual, dark energy that I like. And I love all of the watery sort of guitar tones that I don't really think show up as much on the rest of the record as they do here. Just very washed out, kind of watery tone to it, especially at the end when all of the instrumentation kind of builds up into this loud swell and then it fades out, and it really just kind of sounds like ocean waves shimmering to me. Yeah, I mean, it's a very good work of art. It's a great song, but for me, just compared, and it's crazy that I'm saying this, but compared to the last 6 that I have on my list, I think it's just a little bit less good. Coming in at 6th, which is, I really consider this to be the top half of my list now. I have On a Plane, which really is kind of neck and neck with Come As You Are for me. I think it's an overlooked Nirvana song, personally. I think it has one of their best pop hooks, but it's certainly not just a pop song. It's still heavy. It has this really dreamy feel to it to me, like it's almost kind of pleasant to just zone out to in the chorus. I really like the harmonies on his vocals in the chorus, kind of a psychedelic feel, and just also kind of joyful to listen to. There's something about the way that the melody sounds that puts you in a good mood, and I don't know, I have like a kind of personal bias, I guess, with this one. It's just the way that it makes me feel. I don't know how else to put it. It's not technically any more impressive. It's really kind of simple, but it just feels great to hear it. Coming in at number 5, I have In Bloom, which there is nothing negative I can say about this song at all. It's definitely one of the best Nirvana songs. But I think out of the radio hits, it's not one of my favorites, because it just has to stand next to so many great songs. I really like the lyrics, though. They're very bleak and strange. Almost sounds like a fan obsessing over the band and just having some really weird, strange behavior. I believe I've read somewhere before that there is kind of more of a real story behind this song, but I'm not sure what it is. So if anyone wants to leave that in the comments and have a discussion about it, please do, because I'm not entirely sure. But this one has a great riff. I love when it drops out and it's just Chris playing the bass in the verses. I love Kurt's vocals on it. There's nothing negative I can say. Moving on to number 4, and this is going to seem like a low placement to a lot of people, and I think even prefacing it with that, y'all probably know what it is. But I'm placing Smells Like Teen Spirit here, and that is not because I've heard it too many times. I have heard it a lot, obviously, but for me, even though it did speak to an entire generation, and it definitely rocked the world, it changed the way music would be perceived and played forever, especially in the rock world. I think it's obviously brilliant. The poetry in it is very ambiguous and strange, but it also kind of has meaning if you look at it. You know, there's nothing you can say about this song that hasn't already been said, so I think I don't really need to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I only rank it lower just because I personally think that the three I place above it have a deeper impact on me and are a little more ambitious. As ambitious as this song was. I mean, it was completely unique when it came out. There was nothing like it that came before, so I think that goes without saying. Number 3, we're getting into the top 3 now, so this is probably where I'm going to have the most people disagreeing and or agreeing. A lot of people might agree with some of these, and a lot of people are going to disagree. But I have Lithium third, and for me that's because I think out of all of the catchier, hookier radio Nirvana songs, I think this is my favorite, just because it's the weirdest to me, not counting stuff from In Utero, because I know a lot of that's weirder and edgier probably, but Lithium for me, for a song that still sort of has a pop sensibility about it, I think this is the darkest and weirdest one with the most confusing lyrics. I don't really know what to take away from it. Like I said, I don't like to dissect Nirvana's lyrics a lot because I don't think Kurt always intended for there to be something there that was deeper. I think that's what makes the beauty of Nirvana, is that you just have a lot of room to feel whatever you want to feel about it. And Lithium is great. I think it has one of the best riffs. Another one where it drops out and has Chris play the riff on his bass for a really eerie moment from my perspective. I think the whole thing just sounds very, very bleak and eerie. And yeah, no, I mean, it's probably my favorite out of the more famous, I guess, core Nirvana songs. Coming in at number 2, I have Something in the Way, which this one I think is going to be a clear divide. I think half of the people listening are going to hate that I placed it here, and half of the people listening are going to agree with this, because it's kind of one of those underdog Nirvana songs that a lot of hardcore fans think deserves to be ranked high, but it's also one that I think is overlooked. It kind of has both things going for it. But I placed it so high because I think it's definitely the most unique song on the record. There's nothing like it aside from it, and I don't think they ever really did anything else like it after. I think Dumb is probably the closest they came, because, and I'm only saying that because both songs do feature like this cello playing throughout that give it a very dreary vibe. But I love Something in the Way because it, for me, kind of encapsulates the general vibe of the Seattle scene at the time, but it's kind of on the outskirts of it in a way. And this is just me kind of rambling about what goes on in my head when I hear it. It's all about the atmosphere of it. I think of maybe like an abandoned place with nothing really standing out per se, but it still has this overbearing theme of loneliness and gloominess and you know, like the unspoken words of all the people that may have been there before. It's a beautiful song. I love Kurt's hushed delivery, and I think I remember Butch Vig actually saying it was one of the hardest, if not the hardest, to get to sound right on the record, just because of how unique and soft-spoken it was. And, you know, it's just so different from the, excuse my lisping there, it's so unique and different from anything else on the record, and it's just spectacular to me. Okay, now we're at the final song, which I'm sure everyone who is a hardcore fan of the album already knows what's missing. And I think it deserves the number 1 spot because for me it incorporates everything that makes a Nirvana song great. Everything. It's Drain You, and it has a great pop melody feel, but it still rocks really hard. It has a punk edge to it. It's very noisy as well with the guitar tones. And then there is this whole interlude in the middle section that turns into like a Sonic Youth kind of soundscape where there's a lot of experimentation going on. So that's really like their noise rock roots showing, and a lot of weird sound play going on. Lots of very watery, weird guitar tones and effects, and I think was a rubber duck being played through some delay at one point, and I have always just really enjoyed how psychedelic and weird that whole section is. But on the other end, you know, you can still rock out to it. You can still have fun to it. It kind of has like a sunnier feel to it. It's just one of those songs that puts me in a good mood, but it's also really trippy and dark and weird. You know, it's just everything roll into one for me. And I think it's underrated. I know that it was played on the radio at one time, but I don't think it ever really got as much credit as songs like In Bloom and Come As You Are, Lithium, Smells Like Teen Spirit. But to me, it's a great Nirvana song that incorporates everything I love about the band. So that's about it, I guess. That wraps everything up. I'll definitely be doing a review of In Utero, probably Bleach, in the future. And like I said, if you have any suggestions, please feel free to throw them my way. I don't have a chance to listen to something new very often anymore when I'm busy with work, but just let me know, because I could sit here and ramble about music for hours on end. I can and have most of my life. And yeah, I never really run out of things to say about it. And yeah, I guess I'll end the video there. Thanks for watching.